Hey everybody, this is Joseph Bixu with Premier Castle Realty, and today you're at a spotlight on what we're going to be talking about is the January 22 market update. We finally got the numbers, and I'm able to report them to you. And we're also going to be talking about some showing time statistics. Basically, showing time is a company that we use as a real estate agent or company to schedule our showings in for a home. So what they do is they track all of the showings nationwide and also by region. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. Also, because this is such a hot market, we're going to be talking about buying strategies for those agents out there that are looking to get competitive bids. And also, I just wanted to ask you, what time is it? What time is it right now for you in the market? And then we're also going to cover, just want to remind you that we're going to have an upcoming guest. His name is Terry Bennett, and he has a recent change that he's going to be talking to us about. And also, he's going to be talking about different things in the market for us to understand. So, without any further ado, let's see. Let's get going, get started. All right. So this is Terry Bennett. He is now with Caliber Home Loans. Okay, he just recently had a change in office. I think one of the major things he was looking for is more products for clients, and I think he's found the right place for him. And he's going to be talking to us regarding the new position. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get started. Johnny, take it away. Okay, so what we told you earlier, we're going to be talking about our market update for January 2022. And just as a reminder, every home that we work with, every seller, every buyer, everything, every single transaction, we operate as if that home is a castle. So it's their castle, it's your castle, and that's how we operate when it comes down to helping our clients purchase. Here we go. Okay, so what are the market conditions right now? You've probably heard a lot of things on the news, on the radio, uh, podcasts, or whatever you want to call it, or whatever you get your information from. So obviously, like it says on the slide, spring is the hottest time of the year for home buyers. I think we discussed it in our previous segments. And it's come pretty soon and pretty early. Home shopping season appears to already be in full swing. So that just tells you that there's a lot of buyers out there looking to purchase in the market today. Okay, what are the market conditions does that reference? Okay, so there's a lot of buyers, but it's also month supply refers to the number of months it would take to for a current inventory of homes on the market to sell a given at the current sales pace. So basically, how fast the home sells in a particular market. Okay, so you got to keep that in mind when you're looking at what home choices do the buyers have. Okay, so what is the market condition? Okay, as we continue to kind of dive in deeper here, so there's a lot of buyers. We're talking about the amount of houses that are on the market. So very very short, it says the market is hot. Okay, and homeowners are in great place to sell now while sales are so strong, and that is by the National Association of Realtors. So there's high demand for homes. Okay, and we've already talked about the condition of the market previously, being a low inventory. We're going to dive into those a little bit more regarding the actual numbers. Okay, so one of the first things that I want to talk to you about is, what time it is. Okay, as we go through this presentation, you're going to see a lot of information regarding the market, buyers and sellers. But if you're a seller out there, kind of thinking about, is it time for me to sell? This slide right here makes it pretty simple for you. Okay, it's time. Okay, it's time to sell. If you want top dollar for your house, it is now time to list it. Okay, and list it with us so we can get it sold for you. But this is what time it is right now in this market. Let me show you why. So typically, most of the sales happen in the spring. But this winter, we have an influx of homes, okay, or generally speaking, we have more buyers and so we have sellers too, but not as much as we need. Okay, so if we had more houses to sell, I can tell you we'll probably be selling every single one of them. Okay, now obviously the three factors still apply. You're talking about, you know, price, condition, and location. Those are the three factors that involve the purchase of a home, the sale of a home, no matter what market we're in. Okay, now there's exceptions to those rules, and in a case by case basis. Okay, so typically the hot market starts in April or spring, basically, and it's been we've noticed that there's an uptick in demand as we go through this winter months. Okay, so I wanted to give you a overview the for the Fort Worth area at a glance, so you can kind of see what's going on. This is as of January of 2022. So we've had 871 homes sold. That's an increase of 15.1% based on last year's numbers at the same time. Okay, the median price was 325. It's an increase of 25.5%. That's a pretty good increase, isn't it? Okay, this is where we have a little bit of concern, actually a lot of concern, because we have less than 1 month of housing inventory. Okay, zero point 0.7. That is actually zero point 0.3 less than last year at this time. So we are really facing a seller's market. Okay, it's taken about 30 days on average to days on the market to get a contract, and 36 days on average to close. So if you add those together, we have 66 days on the market from the time that you listed and you actually close on the home. So again, this is really a high seller's market. Okay, we are deep into the seller's market. Okay, so let's look at the median price as it compares to the rest of the market here in the local area. So what I've done is, if you notice our previous presentations, we had, each one of the slides will represent each one of the areas. So what I decided to do is kind of put them all together for you. It helps you understand it better, and I think it helps me present it even a little bit more smoother. Okay, so down at the bottom you'll see, the regions. We're talking about Fort Worth, Tarrant County, Johnson, Parker, and Dallas. So this is the median price, okay, based on the housing market data for January 2022. Okay, so as we said, the median price in the Fort Worth area was 325,000. That's a little bit lower than Tarrant. Tarrant is at 327. Okay, and then for we're talking about Johnson County, we're looking at 304,625, the median price. Look at Parker County. Okay, 405, 393. Woohoo. And then in Dallas, 315. That's probably something that you guys were not thinking about. You're like, I thought Dallas would be a little bit higher. So did I. But unfortunately, these are the numbers that came in, and that's what we're reporting, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so look at the median price increase percentage. Okay, so we're looking at in Fort Worth, it was an increase of 25.5%. Tarrant 23.4 from last year. So Tarrant actually has a larger increase compared to last year, but also we sold less houses, or the median price actually was not as high as Tarrant. Okay, which makes sense, right? 23.4%. And then in Johnson County, we had a 26.9% increase. Parker County, 28.8, and look at Dallas, 16.2% increase. So they're lagging a little bit regarding the amount of median price per home, and also just the increase based on last year's numbers. Okay, if we look at price distribution now, the the bread and butter home sales really are from 200 to about $400,000. That's where the most of the sales happen. And if you look at Dallas, Dallas was actually in the 300s, probably high 300s, but it was very, they didn't have that many homes sold, and the percentage is kind of low too. So, but this is the numbers that came in. So if you look at that, that's the price distribution for these areas. As you can tell, like I said, 200 to $400,000 homes are basically selling. the fastest and the most. Okay, so if we look at here, now this is the sad part. Now, active listings. Okay, this is where we're talking about a shortfall of housing inventory. We have less than 1 month of inventory in Fort Worth. And if you look at compared to last year, we are at minus 33% compared to last year about this time. Same thing with Tarrant, 31%. Johnson County, minus 26%. Parker County, minus 18%. And take a look at Dallas, minus 49%. So that is pretty dramatic. Okay, definitely a shortfall of housing, and a lot of this has happened because really construction has not kept up with demand. You probably heard the news about different states losing a population. I heard a story regarding California where they were actually running out of U-Hauls. There were so many people leaving California, and I can tell you, as a company here, we've helped several California um, new homeowners here in the state of Texas, here in Fort Worth and Dallas. So I know that's definitely for sure, and they recommend their friends. I'm telling you, we have people coming in left and right. So I just want to let you know that because of the shortfall in homes, it's going to be a little bit more difficult in Dallas, as you can tell. Okay, so what does all that tell you? Um, we're definitely in a seller's market. Okay, I'm going to show you the slide real quick and kind of give you an idea of how drastic the situation is regarding the market for buyers or sellers. Listen, look at this. Okay, so if you look at the years, 1999 sellers market, then it jumped up, so it jumped up to a buyer's market, which basically means there was uh, more buyers than houses. That's a seller's market. If there's less houses, I'm sorry, let's say that back again. So if there's more buyers than houses, then that's a seller's market because you're talking about supply and demand. Okay, if there is more houses than buyers, then obviously there's more supply and less buyers, so it becomes a buyer's market. So if you take a look at the years here from 1999 to 2006, 2007, then it kind of dipped down to a neutral market, which was good, and then it went back up in 2008 to a buyer's market, and then in 2010, and then we got a dead cat bounce, which if you're in the finance business, you understand that that's basically a drop. It's just the market just fell. And there's the cat bouncing across the street there. And to today's market. Now, obviously, we're lower than that. That's the low end on that one is 2.0. We're less than a month in market in Fort Worth. So the only really market that we have, what we have a little bit of inventory, is in the Parker County area. So that's uh, that's good news, but the prices are higher. Okay, so if we take a look at this closed sales, this is closed sales compared to obviously January of 2021. So we had an increase of 15% in Fort Worth, 7% in Tarrant, 16% in Johnson. Parker County had a 10%, and Dallas had a minus 5% decrease in closed sales for January. Okay, so that's in character based on the numbers of houses that they have and everything else like that we just finished discussing. Okay, so days on the market, we talked about this earlier. Fort Worth had a 66 days on the market, and that's from the time that's listed to its time it's closed. Okay, they track two different numbers from the time they listed to the time they actually get a contract and end close. But overall, the seller, nobody gets the keys until it closes. So this is a real number, 66 days for Fort Worth. We look at Tarrant County at 63 days. And then you got Johnson County at 66 days. It takes a little bit longer in Parker County, 85 days, because they actually had a little bit more houses sold. And then Dallas, 63 days. So the few houses that they're selling, it's taking 63 days. So pretty much in line, except for Parker County. Okay. So let's look at the months of inventory. This is where the rubber meets the road. Okay, so we saw the previous chart where it talked about just housing inventory altogether. And if we look at this chart here, we look at months of inventory. So we have less than 1 month in Fort Worth, a zero point 0.7, even less in Tarrant County, a zero point 0.6. Johnson, we have a 1.0, so that's 1 month of inventory. And then Parker County with the big number there, 1.4, and then zero point 0.8 for Dallas. Now, keep in mind that it's considered to be a even market when we're at 6.5 months of inventory. That is a long way from here. So we have a lot to do. This is why if you're thinking about selling a home, right now is the time to list it and sell it, because you want to sell it when demand is high. That's in everything. Okay, demand is high and you get the most for your property when this is happening. Okay? And let me tell you why you should be selling, because right now if we look at a national average, equity gain in the US by $57,000. Okay, over year percentage rate increase in equity for US homeowners with mortgages 31%. Okay, year over year total increase in equity of US homeowners with mortgages a $3.2 trillion. So nationwide, there is $3.2 trillion in equity and homes currently that are not either sold or basically the ones that have been selling. Okay. This past summer in 2021, home prices growth reached its highest level in more than 45 years, pushing the equity gains to another record high. This is according to CoreLogic, which do a lot of tracking numbers and number crunching. So I'm glad they do it because I really don't want to. And this is good information for you. The ones that are actually out there thinking about possibly selling, it's time to sell now. Okay. If you wait any further, it's going to be, obviously spring is mostly the time that typically it starts the annual real estate market, but it's already started. So it's already in full swing. Okay, so let's talk about future demand. So remember I told you Showing Time is the company that we use to actually schedule showings. So what they do is they track the activity per home, per how many times a home gets shown by region, and then they report it. So I think it's actually pretty good, and it's a leading indicator of current and future demands. Okay, so this tells you what's happening in the market. So Showing Time Showing Index. Okay, now they started in 2014 with a 100. Okay, so it tracks the average of numbers of buyers showing the active residential properties on a monthly basis. It's highly reliable leading indicator of current and future demand trends. So their low number is 100. Okay, and when they started tracking all this information back in 2014. So as we go through these slides, keep that in mind. 100 is the low part. Basically, they're zero. Basically, zero is their 100. Okay, so if we take a look at the pre-pandemic numbers according to Showing Time, and you look at actual numbers today, we are crushing it. Okay, this again going back to the demand that's out there right now for houses. The Showing Time is showing us. Showing Time is showing us. Say that 10 times. That in 2020 we had a 156.1 index. In 2021, 174. And look at the last three normal years that we actually had: 2017, 2018, and 2019, under 100. Okay. So that's what you want to think about, because this is the numbers. This is a leading indicator that the market is very high. Okay. So let's see. Again, going back to the listings. So we have high demand, low listings. Take a look at the numbers as of January of 2022. Look at this. Active listings over the last 5 Januaries. Look at that. So 2017, 2018, 2019, we had a high number of inventory, but we had a lower number of action. So the leading indicator would say if you have a high inventory and low demand, That is a buyer's market. Look at 2020, 1 million, 2021, 571, and 409. We're talking about thousands of homes. There is a low inventory with high demand. This is definitely this, and this is the nation. Okay, this is not just Fort Worth. This is the nation that we're looking at. So it tells you that we're definitely in the seller's market. And if you decide to list, your home would sell for the highest amount possible in the current market conditions. Okay. So I wanted to kind of dig a little deeper and kind of show you the southern region, which is basically you know Texas. We're talking about Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, and I'll show you the map here in a minute. But look at the numbers. 2019, it correlates to the pre-pandemic numbers, and it also correlates to the information we saw regarding the sellers, the buyers market. Okay, and then look at 2020 plus 69%, 2021 plus from the 2020 numbers another 12% there for 2021 to 180. And this kind of shows you, basically month to month increase for the southern region, okay, which includes Texas. So let me show you a little map here. Okay, so this kind of gives you an idea what they're tracking. So in the southern region, showing time index is a 180.8, and the national showing time index is 174.0. So as you can tell, we're a little bit higher than the national index, which basically means we're pretty hot. Okay, we're hot. So again, going back to low inventory, this is month supply existing homes over the last 5 Decembers. Again, going back to the last three normal years, okay, 3.1, 3.7, 3. And then we look at 2020 and 2021, definitely a seller's market. All of these dates have been seller's market, but we're really, really low inventory today. And it definitely shows in what's going on in the activity regarding multiple offers and so forth. Okay, so in summary, based on the showing index, so we've had the most active December in the last 5 years. There is a very, very, very strong demand for homes. Supply has been the lowest number since January of 2017, and this is the best time to sell when there's a limited supply, like right now. Okay, 6.12 million homes were sold in 2021. That was the highest since 2006. That's a big difference. December 2021, there was 1.8 months supply of inventory, and that was the lowest ever reported for December. If you agree that the best time to sell is when demand is high and supply is low, well, it's time for us to connect to discuss listing your house today. Okay? Just so you know. So this is where we get the what time is it? If you want top dollar for your house, now is the time to list. It is now time to sell your home. And if you have multiple homes, get that equity out and enjoy life. Okay, so that was the overall market condition. What I wanted to do now is kind of give you an idea of some of the strategies that we take into account when we're working with buyers. Okay, so obviously, several factors that you got to kind of consider, and basically the timing. Okay, because I always use the analogy of a school of fish. Okay, and if you see a school of fish, if you've ever been swimming or you watch the Nature Channel or wherever, there is a school of fish that swim around, and they're swimming, and swim together. This is the market. This is the buyers out there looking for houses. And basically, what happens is once one of those fishes finds somewhere they can, call home, whoop, they're gone. Now the number seems still big, but those there's a fish that's missing. So this is what happens with the market. So you got to think about the offer, just basically the amount. Now, again, if you have a low inventory market and you have a high demand, which is there's a lot of buyers out there, you don't want to come in with a low ball offer. Okay, you're gonna be wasting your time, to be honest with you, and it's gonna be very frustrating for you, and it's gonna be very frustrating for the seller, and most of the time, very frustrating for everybody involved, including your agent. Okay, because a good agent, has dealt with several buyers and sellers, and he understands the market by looking at the same information that I'm looking at. Not only that, but they're actually out there doing this on a daily basis. Okay, the full-time real estate agent knows the market very well. Okay, so then they're also able to tell you about the terms of the offer. So it's not just the price or the sales price that you're offering, but also the terms. Okay, because the terms also cost money. For example, if you're gonna pay for the title warranty, that could be, depending on the price of the home, it could be over $1,000. Okay, and then also, if you take a look at the survey, that could be between $500 to $700, depending on the property. It could be as high as 1,000 if you're buying some land. Okay, even more. Everything's going up. You heard of inflation, right? It's in the news. This is exactly what's happening. Okay, so the terms of the offer actually have a big effect, because not only is the offers important, but also what are the terms. In today's world, we have an addendum that's called the right to terminate due to an appraisal. There's three options in that, and we're going to go into it in another podcast. But I wanted to let you know that there is something to do to help your offer be stronger. That's one of the tools that we have. Okay. Also, the next thing is to be qualified and have a great team. And with Premier Castle Realty, you have an expert at your hand, and agents that are provide the best possible service. Now, nobody's perfect, so don't expect perfection, but expect great service, because we aim to exceed your expectations here with Premier Castle Realty. Okay, so I wanted to also tell you about another thing that can happen, and we've won several homes this way, and that is submitting a backup offer, a backup contract. So you didn't win the contract. Okay, great. You're mad, you're discouraged. You're like, you're going to take a couple of days off. Guess what? The market's still going. So remember we talked about timing? If you take time off, guess what? Somebody else is looking at those properties that you might have liked. So this could be an excellent way to win a home in a tight market. Okay. Now, so what happens is this: when you make a backup offer or a backup contract, you basically offer a amount, terms, everything, like if you would be the original buyer on the property, but it's a backup. So that means that it's not in effect really until the other contract terminates, the one that's in the first position. However, okay, you still, as a buyer, must pay the earnest and option money within 3 days of the backup executed date. So it's typically at the beginning, it's handled like the original offer, but it has a couple things that must happen in order to become the number one contract on the property. For example, there's a contingency, right? So it's contingency on the termination of the primary contract. So if the contract terminates, then you go into the number one position. If it does not terminate, by a certain date that's actually on the amendment, then the backup terminates. Okay, you receive, if it doesn't terminate and you don't get the property, then you receive your earnest money back. The option money stays with the seller. So there's two different items that you provide. It's called an earnest, which is basically like a down payment, and the option, which is short for option to terminate. This is when you would go into the contract. So the option shouldn't be that much of a amount. We typically do between $100 to $200, and it used to be 70, but as the market continues to go up and more competitive, we've had to increase that to make it at least appealing to the seller. Okay, because you can terminate for whatever reason, and the seller takes the house off the market. Now they can still pick up backup offers. With this, comes in place. So if the person that terminates, then you take the number one position. Okay, so what happens if the primary contract terminates? Well, you receive, as the buyer, receive a notice. It has to be in writing that the first contract has terminated. Okay, so what happens then? Well, the backup becomes the primary contract. So in a tight market, I can tell you that there's several times the houses come back on the market. I went to show one today to a client of mine, and it just came back on the market. Now, they were supposed to close this Friday. Okay, found out today that actually, I think they found out yesterday that they were not going to be closing. So guess what? Back on the market. That's frustrating for them. They're looking for somebody to buy quick. So if you already had a backup offer, it wouldn't go back in the market. You'll be the one getting the property. It takes a little bit of patience. Another thing that you got to consider is that if you find something else, you can continue to look. You have a backup. You can continue to look at another property. And if you find something else that you like, you can cancel the backup contract because you have an option. And then the seller keeps that option money, and you can do another offer in another property. You probably already done it before you cancel this one because you don't want to cancel the backup contract unless you really need to. Okay, so so the new amended effective date. Okay, all contractual obligations are tied to this new date, and the amended effective date is the same thing, the executed date. So whenever the backup becomes the primary contract, there's a new date. That date is very important because everything else surrounds that date. You have a new option period. So that's the effective date. Let's say you negotiated 7 days, you have a 7-day option. This is where you can do inspections and so forth. Guess what? You can cancel during those 7 days if the house is in really, really, really bad condition. Okay. Now, again, going back to strategy for buyers, to be honest with you, if you ask for a lot of repairs on a property, you're probably going to get a seller contribution, okay, as opposed to making the repairs. And it should go to either reducing the price of the home, or it would go in section 12A 1B, which is basically seller's contribution to the contract. Okay, that's used for anything closing amounts are also used for anything that the lender does not the lender approves. Okay, so again, the amended effective date is day 0 for the option period, short for option to terminate. Okay, that's the buyer's right. The seller can cancel the contract. The seller is tied to the contract. You as the buyer can cancel within that time period. So if you're buying a home, always, let me say that again, always, get an option period. It protects you. Okay. So the buyer retains the unrestricted right to terminate until their option period expires. Now, it expires at 5 o'clock on the last day of the option period. So if you have 7 days, on the 7th day at 5 o'clock, it expires. Okay. If you do not advise the seller's agent minimum, because that's who, if you represent the seller, you are actually working on behalf of the seller. So your agent, your real estate agent, should notify the other agent, would be the seller's agent, of the termination, which is a form that has to be filled out. Okay, you just can't call them and say, "Hey, I want to terminate." It doesn't work that way. You need to submit a form. Okay, and because there's no verbal agreements in real estate, everything is written down. So keep that in mind. No verbal agreements. Okay, so that's one strategy to win a contract. It takes a little bit of time. We've won several homes that way because this market is such a crazy market right now. Okay, several homes. Now, another strategy that we want you to kind of think about is, and it kind of elaborates on what we just discussed. But a strong team, make sure you have a strategy because you want to have a winning offer, and keep in mind that it's very competitive. So let me review some of this real quick. Okay, so how to win in the buyer's market? I mean, in a seller's market. Okay, you need to have a strong team, and that starts with your real estate agent. It starts with the lender because you got to have somebody to help you with the loan unless you're paying cash. Okay, and also this also includes the title company, includes, your real estate agent has a resource, a toolbox of individuals, preferred vendors that they work with, that they trust, like roofers, electricians, and so forth, because a lot of things could happen between the time that you make the offer, you do the inspections, and then any repairs. Okay, so we have the skills to move quickly. Okay, so you need to have a great team. This was where Premier Castle Realty comes into play. Now, so you got to make sure that you plan this. Okay, just like in sports, you don't go into a game without a plan. And one thing that I tell our agents is, if you don't plan to succeed, you plan to fail. So you got to make sure that you budget, okay? Because you want to look at your payments, and you make sure you have a savings plan. Think about your wish list, your priorities on your house, what your needs are, how much you can afford. And this conversation can be had, with your lender, who is the other team player in your team. Okay, because all of us want work for you, and we all working together to get to the end game, which is the end zone, which is the closing. Okay, we want to win this game. Now, keep in mind, I always tell my buyers, okay, I don't want this house more than you. Okay, so the same thing I tell my sellers, I cannot want to sell this house more than you. So you have to be actively involved in this process. There are requirements that are going to have to be filled out, and sometimes the lender will ask you for the same document multiple times, and it's very frustrating for everybody, including everybody. So, you know, consider what's in and out of your bounds. Okay, figure out where you want to stay, the same area, or branch out of new communities. Make a list of neighborhoods. There's one thing that's funny because this happens all the time. Okay, so we're working with a buyer, and we discuss, okay, what area are you looking at, what communities have you thought of, blah blah blah. We go into detail, and all of a sudden I get a house that's sent to me that I haven't found because I'm not looking in that area, but it's another area that's nearby, but not the same area that we're talking about. So sometimes this list expands. So once they send me something in another area, guess what I do? I start looking at in that area too. I include those communities in my new search because I don't want to show you just one property. I want to give you a choice. So the more properties that I can send you, even in a limited market, there's still going to be more than one property, generally speaking, in any subdivision or any community or any city. Okay, right? So that's one of the things that we do. Okay, so be ready because it's very competitive. That means, your lender is going to give you a pre-qualification letter. And nowadays, I also recommend that your lender actually do a full underwriting. That basically means that you've already provided all your tax records, your bank records, you've explained any items that need to be explained, and you're ready to rock and roll, baby. You're ready to make that offer solid, go into the contract, and all we need is a property to qualify. Okay, and going back to that form that I discussed earlier, the right determinate based on the appraisal. That's a very key part of the process. Okay, so I would encourage that you learn your team's expertise. Now, let me tell you something. You know, New agents do not get experience unless they're actually doing the job, out there working and helping people buy houses. However, in this market, you need to have the expertise to be able to navigate through all of these different scenarios. Okay? And then we draft up the offer because remember I told you the terms of the offer can either help you or hurt you depending on what you put on there. And if you want to win the bidding war, because that's exactly what's happening with a low inventory, high demand market, you have to be willing to do Some of the things that in a typical market you wouldn't have to do. Okay. So in a seller's market, you can still be a champion or a winner if you have the right team and strategy. Let's connect today to make your game a winning play in the DFW market. We used to have a client. She still is our client. We have events that we get together, and we ran into her at an event somewhere, and she was telling us that she was very frustrated because she didn't think she was a winner. She says, "I'm not a winner. I'm a loser." I said, "You need to stop talking like this." And my partner, Peggy, also would tell her, "It's like, hey, you need to stop thinking like that. It is time to be a winner. We're winners. You're a winner when you're working with us." And she won. Previous agent that she was working with could not get her into a home. You know, uh, very high competitive market. We were able to get her into her home, and she is a winner. And she was so happy about that. She's one of our best clients. So, we have many. So I just wanted to kind of give you our contact information. So you can contact us in several ways. You can get us on our website at premiercastlerealty.com. Also, we have another website, premiercastlerealty.co. Okay. Our phone and email is 833-722-7853. Our email is info@premiercastlerealty.com. You can also follow us, okay, on social media. There's the addresses. You got Instagram, we have Rumble, we have another Instagram and Facebook page. We also have a YouTube page. Pretty much all of them will be Premier Castle Realty, so you can find us there. So I just wanted to make sure you understand that, and we're ready to help you be a winner. So thank you for your time. We, Premier Castle Realty, are here to help you be winners and get your next home or sell your home. And just so you know, we also have a property management company, PCR Property Management. So we're going to be actually starting that up here soon. So if you're interested in looking for somebody to manage your property, give us a call at that number, 833-722-7853. It's going to be extension 3. Okay. So we try to keep it simple here. All right. So if you have any questions, also, there's our information at the bottom of the screen, scrolling across. We'd love to be able to help you out. So if you have any questions, let us know. Okay. Thank you so much.